Hey, I'm Phillip Kennedy Johnson, writer of Superman, Batman and Robin, Hulk, Alien, all kinds of other cool shit. I curse too much. It's honestly a problem. You're on splash pages.
Sword of Omens, come to my hand. I, Lion-O, command it. Thundercats, ho! And you're watching The Dorkening.
Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. We are live. My name's Leo, and I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. You're watching Splash Pages, and Drew, you unmuted yourself there. We could hear you throughout the whole thing. It was hilarious. I felt about muting you again, but you know. And yeah, just want to let you know the pumpkining has begun. I can
no.
Yeah, it's
I am embarrassed, but I'm not really, because these happens more often than I realize. Hi everybody, it's Tuesday. You're here, so there was really nothing else better on TV, so sorry. But we're back. We're somehow well rested enough, and we got a great guest. So all that and more. Stay tuned.
Carrie.
Hey everybody, happy Tuesday. Hey Tom Dog, how's it going?
Hey, Tom.
Ratatosker and I are here and we are super excited, and you do get a squeak. We have on tonight an amazing guest. You might know him from writing Superman, from Marvel's Aliens. Currently he is working on The Incredible Hulk in an amazing run, and also Crocodile Black, which we have looked over for this evening, a very nice dark comic with the final issue coming out soon. And also in the DC All-In Initiative, he is going to be taking over the Batman and Robin run. Everybody, please welcome Phillip Kennedy Johnson.
Yeah, more Hulk.
How's everybody doing over there?
Good.
So,
Great,
hey,
doing great.
Where are you guys out of? Where are you recording from?
Well, in New York, Nebraska. Leo is somewhere from Connecticut.
All over. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm actually like 10 minutes away from Mohegan Sun.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
13,
Yeah.
thank you, Mr. Pond.
That's awesome.
You
guys
drive
do this
slow.
all over the place. Internet gets it right sometimes. It's cool.
Totally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
What about you, Phillip? Where are you from?
I'm in the DC Baltimore area right now. I've been around Washington, DC for almost 20 years.
Wow.
Nice.
Okay. Well, I just want to start off saying it was super awesome getting to meet you at Terrificon this year. Just thank you, not just for the interviews, but stopping by our booth. It's just super cool. And, everyone in your family was also fantastic. And
Oh, thanks.
yeah, everyone was so lovely. And I think my favorite thing was I was walking by, I think it was like the last day, and I think it was your wife and kid visiting Joe St. Pierre, and her just gushing about how much he's a Spider-Man fan. And Joe is just like the most chill guy in the world. We had him on last week, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you were there for that." I was like, "Yeah, did you not see me running around doing interviews in my red suit and things?" Like, "Yeah, man, we were busy, but we were there." And it was super cool because that family's dope. So yeah. So
yeah,
awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, Anders is my son is just a massive Spider-Man fan. He the Into the Spider-Verse films to him, like the gold standard. He just loves that whole concept. And yeah, so yeah, Joe's booth was just like kind of right across from mine, sort of. And he was just kind of eyeing that stuff the whole time. So at the end, I wasn't actually there. I was not there for that incident. I came back a little bit later, and he was holding some prints that Joe had done. I had something signed, and he was like so stoked.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. But also, like I said, me and Carrie are huge fans of your Incredible Hulk run. I've been a so-so fan of the Hulk, and then I read Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk, and that just blew me away in terms of storytelling, the scope, just what it contributed to Bruce Banner's mythology, the Hulk, everything was just amazing. And I know other people followed that. I think like Donnie Cates followed him for a bit, and some other people. But I kind of feel, and Carrie, back me up if you feel this. So I feel like your work on Incredible Hulk is kind of like the spiritual successor to Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk. So
thank you, man. That's super high praise. I mean,
yeah.
When I'd been writing Alien for a couple of years, and man, did I love that book. I love those films. I love writing Alien. It was just a dream come true gig for me. And I gave it up strictly for bandwidth reasons. Like I was just running on fumes, if at all. I just been burning the candle whole for years at that point. I was like, man, I'm just doing too much. I feel like I'm starting to show my ass a little bit in my work. I just need to be doing everything I do. I need it to be like the best, smartest version of that thing. I do not want to turn in B- work ever,
Right.
And I was just really starting to make sure that the work stayed good. I was just killing myself. So I was like, man, I've gotten 3 good arcs out of this book, plus the annual, and it was really fun. And and frankly, Fox is starting to get kind of stingy with their notes and all that. And like, man, I don't know, this might be a good time to step away. So I reluctantly let go of Alien, and that was the first book I ever like gave up, like that I ever walked away from. And I was kind of nervous about it. I was like, man, this is my only Marvel book. Am I making a mistake? Plus I love it. And anyways, I did it. And then not long after that, I got a call from Will Moss, this amazing editor at Marvel that I'd always kind of wanted to work with. And he was like, hey man, I know you just gave up. I heard you just gave up Alien. He's like, would you want to do Incredible Hulk? And I was like, fuck, man. Like I couldn't believe, like, what am I going to do? Like, I need the time, but sometimes you just get a gig you can't say no to. And I had not necessarily been that guy that bought every Hulk book every month, no matter what. I have my runs that I love. And I mean, you mentioned one of them. I mean, like Immortal Hulk is just that incredible top shelf book. And the hardest thing about doing it was like, how do I not just copy what Al did?
Right.
Because I thought Al Ewing's work on Immortal was just perfect. The way that it went back to the proper monster book. Sometimes I'm just a horror guy. Sometimes I'll look at a book and I'm like, man, I wish Hulk was a horror book. I wish Aquaman was a horror book. I wish Green Lantern was a horror book. I'll just look at certain books and be like, that would be a dope, really scary story. So I just see these openings to do that kind of thing for various books. Not for everything. It's not always appropriate, but sometimes I feel like it would be.
Right.
So yeah, I just saw Hulk as one of those things. Even before Al was doing that book, I thought that was just the obvious perfect fit. So when Immortal Hulk became what it became, it was so rewarding to see. And I was like, how do I not just do more of that thing? Because it was so great. I just want more of that. The more I sat with it, I mean, I'm just like laying there in bed with the covers up to my chin. Like, what do I do? Like, if I'm going to do it, how do I make my version of that that's not just copying another creator? And my way into it, slowly in my mind, it became less and less the Cronenberg black science horror that Al had done, and more of like a Mignola kind of like folk horror, like that kind of creepy shit kind of thing, like a Southern Gothic folk horror kind of book instead, where you see kind of the old Bill Bixby setup, where he's kind of just walking the earth. And across the American South, there's so many opportunities for cool, creepy stories that I wanted to show. That's how it kind of came what it became. Inspired by the Al Ewing book, obviously.
Yes.
And Joe Bennett. I know it's, sometimes people don't want to say Joe's name because of what happened, but Joe was the artist in that book for a hell of a long time. So the Al Ewing, Joe Bennett book. Yeah. It was so that's obviously a huge influence on it, but also Hellboy, also Hellblazer.
Right.
There's just a lot of just creepy influences on that story that let me kind of put my own stamp on it.
And we've seen kind of a revival of the Southern Gothic stuff going on, or maybe it's just kind of an arrival, like with Harrow County that Cullen Bunn was working on with Tyler Crook, and some of that, it's been more in the indie circuit, but it's really been effective lately. It's there's been a lot more darkness and horror in comics that's been coming up. I had an instructor in sociology one time, Jim Farger, and he said, Farger's law of science fiction, it's always happening now. So his example was Enemy Mine. It's about racism, but there's so much darkness coming up, and it's kind of like if you're watching the scene, checking out the graffiti on the walls or whatever, what people are interested in and what people are feeling is pushed real forward in the darkness right now. There's just so much around us in isolation. So do you see that as something that's coming through in a lot of different books or a lot of different authors that I've noticed?
I do, yeah. I admit I'm behind on my prose reading right now. Like the prose reading that I'm doing is basically with my own son. I read to my son before bed every night, like no matter what's happening. So that's kind of where I'm getting my prose right now. Sometimes I'll listen to prose as an audiobook while I'm doing other stuff. But when I'm reading with my eyeballs these days, it's almost always a comic, either for research for something I'm writing or just because I need to know. And I got to keep up on the state of the art.
Right.
And man, I just think comics has always been such like an effective medium for horror. Like there's certain stuff, like especially now, like back in the day, I know there's always been people like creative outliers that have their own voice outside of what everyone is doing.
Mm-hmm.
But especially now, like the diversity of styles in comics now is nuts. I mean, there's just so many incredible styles, and if you can do just anything you want as long as you sell it, if you just take the vision that you have and just take it all the way and really sell it and make sure that it's effective, it doesn't have to look like the quote unquote house style of anybody. When I grew up, I know this is me speaking from ignorance because I had a very limited scope of what comics were when I was a kid. But at the time, I had a very narrow scope of what comics looked like, because all the books of a certain time period kind of looked the same to me, because it was mostly, in Justice League shit or Spider-Man or whatever, like everyone kind of conformed to the house style of that particular house. And when I got back into comics later in life, one of the things that just captivated me was the crazy variation of styles and how effective they all could be. And I think that's most effective in horror, honestly. I mean, I feel like I'm talking about the same books too often, but I do read new stuff. But the ones that still kind of like stick out to me are books like Ice Cream Man is very well done.
Mm-hmm.
What's another, like there's a really amazing adaptation of Beowulf that is just incredibly striking by Rubin Garcia.
Mm-hmm.
What's another really great horror book? Trad Moore drew a really cool looking Silver Surfer story that has this awesome psychedelic stuff. It's not like a horror book, but it was just so out. I just loved it. And it was like so unsettling in such a cool way. God, I don't know, man. There's so many things you can do with the pacing, with the, so cool ways you can affect the page turns and the layouts and the thing. There's so many cool things you can do with horror in a comic that you can't do in other mediums. Yeah, if there's one genre that I always look for in comics that I need to keep up with and what people are doing and just kind of see who the new voices are, it's always horror.
There's definitely been, and Carrie can definitely attest to this, the indie community has definitely had a huge influx in horror stories as well. Read a handful recently. Something Killing the Children. What was the dog? The
dog one. Stray Dogs.
Yeah, Stray Dogs. Yeah.
Yeah, Tony Fleeks. Yeah, that's a great book. God, that was so cool. There's Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees is a great one.
And I loved that. I was hoping that you'd read that because
awesome book. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then of course anything Mike Mignola does is just horror, pacing, ambiance, perfection. Well,
I think we need to add Crocodile Black to that, because holy crap, that was an incredible read.
It is always so funny whenever we're reading a book. Leo just has to comment something and he's just like, wow, that was really dark. And I'm just like, have you read comics recently? Like, it's not, like it's Philip, you have to understand, whenever we recommended something, like the joy is what his first reaction is. Like, he'll read a book that I recommend, he was like, that was great, or I didn't care for it, or what is wrong with you? And I'm just like, love you too, buddy. Just keeping your horizons open. to diverse storytelling. You just like,
Well, I'm very glad you
Yeah.
guys read it, and I or are reading it. I should say there's one more issue yet.
Mhm.
Yeah.
The final issue, issue 5, right?
Yeah, issue 5 is coming out next month. Hopefully,
Yeah.
we're running a little bit hot on that one, so we'll see.
Yeah.
It might be a week late. We'll see, but it'll get done. Since it's the last issue, I guess I wasn't too worried about it. But Sam is doing such incredible work. I would say the greatest work of his career, but he's actually not done a lot of comics yet. He this is his first Western comic. In fact, he lives in Mumbai.
Wow.
He did like
Okay.
a short form. He did a short form thing with Ram V a long time ago.
Mhm.
I have seen pages from other books that he's done. I've never read a complete book that he's done, but he's still relatively new to comics. But if you look through his sketchbook type stuff that he posts online, his full name is Somnath Pal, but he goes by Som, just SOM. And if you look at the stuff, just the single images that he posts online, they tend to be just images of the grotesque intruding upon reality. So there'd be what would be a mundane moment of a man and a woman kissing, or a man driving and smoking, or or somebody listening to music through headphones or whatever.
Mhm.
And whatever is happening, there's this crazy cosmic horror shit happening. Like the music that's coming through is kind of like bubbling out in this grossness that's changing the guy. Or in the place where the man and the woman are coming together, they're becoming this third thing. And it's just, or the smoke from the cigarette as he's smoking is curling around and becoming something else. When I saw that work, I was like, I need this guy in a book with me, and I know what that book's going to be. And
Yeah.
I was really grateful to have gotten him, because that's totally what this book is about. I mean, as you say, you talk about science fiction. This book is not exact. This is horror more than science fiction, but it is very much of telling a story of now. It takes place during COVID, in the early days of COVID, during COVID, because now we beat it. It's over. Anyway, sorry, too soon.
No, all good, man.
Faceless joke. But it's, because people talk like it's over, but when it was still the new thing, and none of us knew what was coming, like
Mhm.
how the world was going to be different later. It was scary as hell. And people, like, the whole mask thing was weaponized in this weird political way, and some people didn't wear it on, like, just deliberately wouldn't wear it, and it became this weird tension point between people.
Yeah.
And the book wasn't really, the comics that were on the shelf at the time were not really reflecting that.
Mhm.
Like, whenever you bought comics back then, or even after that, there were not many books that showed people, like, distancing the way that we were back then, or wearing masks at all. Everyone's kind of pretending like nothing was happening. And I guess they didn't want to date their work or something. I don't know. I'm kind of making excuses for them, but honestly, I thought it was really cowardly not to acknowledge it in the work. So in fact, I was writing Marvel Zombies back then, and it got delayed because of COVID, and not because of, Amazon buying up all the boxes. It was because the first image of issue 1. So there was a one shot, that set up a later miniseries, and the first issue of the actual miniseries, the first page was just New York, like Times Square in New York, in terror, everyone running from, like, zombies, and this big pandemic thing, and everyone's terrified, and they're like, well, I guess we're waiting until April to put this shit out. Because that was about to come out, and they were like, nope. And we waited for, it wasn't April, it was like summer, I think, when they finally put it out, or maybe the next year. I don't remember. They waited like a healthy bit before putting out that book, because they just didn't want to upset anyone. And actually, the reason I always think about Ice Cream Man for horror is because of an issue that came out around that time, because it was a COVID issue, and it was so effectively done. It was like an anthology, and it was not by the main creative team. And one of those stories showed a little girl, it's like looking out the window at the street below in a city, and there's like nobody out there. And whenever there was somebody out there, she would kind of make up these little stories to imagine what was happening down there. So, like, she would see a man and a woman arguing on the street corner. The man's in the street and there's no cars. And she would, like, draw on the glass. She would draw things over the people to show what was happening. Like a car hits the guy and he's dead, or like a balloon comes and takes somebody away, or whatever. She draws pictures to change the story that's happening on the street. Meanwhile, she's just hearing her parents fighting viciously in the background. That was so well done. That's actually more than anything else in the Ice Cream Story series. That's the story I always think of now. Because it was brave, man, and it mattered. Like moments like that are these touchstone moments where stories deeply matter, and to ignore, to tell a story about just bullshitty spectacle stuff while we actually have this crazy trauma happening all around us. I just felt like there was some story that needed to be told there. So I had a story of my own that I wanted to tell that took place it's not about COVID, but it takes place during COVID, and it couldn't really happen at any other time because of some of the circumstances of the story.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's where Crocodile Black came from. It's about the power of masks. It's about the power of isolation. It's about mental illness, people being like trapped together. And it's kind of about the great, what's the word that people call it? The great resignation, like when everyone kind of walked away from their jobs. Like a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people that were in these entry-level jobs they didn't want, or college degrees they never really believed in, or whatever, they just walked away from them. They're like, fuck this, the world's ending anyway. I'm going to go do the thing I've always secretly wanted to do. And it's about a guy like that, a guy that walks away from his life that he hates to finally find his true calling, which is a dangerous man.
Yes. I also want to say I think that was the most terrifying use of a crocodile I've seen since Peter Pan. So I just wanted to say that because in the latest issue, you kind of reveal a bit of an origin story. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but definitely read issue 4 because it's going to make a lot of things sense. And just reading that, I was like, oh God. Oh, wow.
It's rough, right?
I was just like, I suddenly need to check on all of my friends who live in Florida.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, fuck sharks, man. Crocodiles are the bigger threat. Okay. Because I was like, until Sharktopus, they weren't able to get on land. A crocodile can get on land, man. They can get. I was like, yeah, fuck Shark Week. Like, we need like a Crocodile Week. We need like some PSAs.
The thing that sucks about crocs and alligators is that they're ambush predators, and they just kind of hang out and wait.
Yeah, we can learn from their patience, Philip.
And then when they move, they move quick. And that is unfortunate.
They can hold their breaths for like a day too underwater. They just sit there, shut down their metabolism, and then I'm gonna get you.
Right, exactly.
I remember that scene from Crocodile Dundee when the woman says, "I'm just gonna fill up the canteen," and the schwam, and then Paul Hogan made killing it look so easy, and I'm like, no way, you would be dead. No fucking way. But that just, like this story, you just really captured the isolation very well, and the desolation and just the kind of like hopelessness of the time very nicely. I'm just reading it and I'm like, oh God, I'm getting shell shocked. I'm remembering being stuck in my apartment, unemployed, thinking about, well, this is the end. I got a decent credit score, so I got that going for me.
I win. Roll credits. It was a weirdly stressful time just because no one knew what was coming.
Nope.
So I wanted to try to capture some of that. And actually, one of the actual thing that the little kernel of a story that I heard somewhere that really kind of sparked the whole thing was I listened to this podcast by the New York Times called The Daily.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of fallen off of it. It's really good though. And on Sundays it's about current events until Sunday. And that's like a personal interest, like a human interest piece. And on this one Sunday, there was a story about an old guy who died in his apartment in New York during COVID.
Oh gosh.
Very much like that guy on the screen there. Like poor
right there. Like that guy.
Leo. Sorry, Leo Pond. This guy in the screen, there's Leo Black.
Yep.
Anyway.
And I love how he changes throughout the story because he's like starting to bloat. That's.
Yeah, I know. When we got to that issue, I wasn't sure what to do because he looks so different when he's bloated. And I was like, is anyone not going to get it? Like, so the editor actually reached out and was like, so he drew him all bloated. I actually recommend that we make him like desiccated and just rotting instead. Like, I don't know, man. Like I tend to err on the side of trusting the reader to be smart or to figure it out. Like I'd rather not dumb it down for people because I think they're stupid.
Yeah.
I know there
Yeah.
might be the occasional person that looks at it and be like, "Huh, he's fat now," but just give them a minute and they'll get it. Like it's, Anyway, it just when I saw it, it looked effective, and I thought if we add some flies and ideally a little bit of gas, like kind of wafting off of them, I think people will get it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we left it.
I
And I
like
think
this scene.
in the next issue, after he's not bloated and his mouth is all stretched out like that. God, it's gross.
I
Hey,
like
I'm
this
sorry.
dinner scene because it
Yeah,
showed that, like, when everybody, that was another thing in COVID. It's like, oh, we are all professional cooks now. Right? I don't know if this would be a normal meal for them, but it's all like, ooh, look at the pretty plating and everything looks great. And,
Yeah, look how normal and healthy the world is. Yeah, it's like this weird performative thing, right?
yeah. And then
While everyone's pretending that everybody's normal, everyone's going through their own shit in their own mind, like freaking out about like wondering if they're too close or if they're far enough or if they accidentally touch somebody else's glass or worried about some other personal stuff that they're freaking out about. So yeah, and actually some of the stuff on that table where you see the boot eating the stuff and everything, I didn't put that in the script. That was something Sam added himself.
Oh,
nice.
I do write a lot like that. Yeah, I've seen there. I do add a lot of detail to the script. Actually, I give a lot of direction, but it's always with the understanding that they're free to take or leave or add or remove anything. I do give a lot of direction and a lot of ideas on the page, but I always try to make it clear to the artist that they don't like work for me. Like I'm trying to tell them a story so that they can tell the story to the reader.
makes sense.
And they don't have to like obey me. It's all about just giving them ideas for them to use or discard.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I know that we've seen like I've read some scripts that are pretty detailed. Some are kind of interpretive, and I think it's funny you said it because I remember I think it was Klaus Janson talking about the one time he worked with like Alan Moore, and he had just like a simple two-parter Green Arrow story, and he said when he got Alan's script, it was like a phone book. Like the guy detailed everything. And it was really easy, but it was just still like such a challenge because it's like, you have spelled it out. Can I do this? So it's kind of nice to see that your style is very much like, I'm going to spell it out, but you can do what you feel is best for your style of work.
That's the thing. Like I always think about that Alan Moore story, but I also think about this thing that Tom King described. It's like Tom King is a friend, and he lives actually pretty close by. He lives in Capitol Hill.
Nice.
And he talks about, there was a scene that he shared in a book where it shows this unbelievable moment. I can't remember who drew it, if it was George Fornes or if it was Clay Mann or some top tier guy. Drew this amazing, I want to say it was George, but I'm not sure. He was drawing this amazing Lee Weeks shit. Anyway, sorry. Moving on. Batman was fighting a ton of ninjas and it looked amazing. And Tom said that the description for that panel was something like Batman fights a bunch of ninjas looking awesome or something like that. And he cashes the check as the writer, and then the artist makes this unbelievable thing that takes so much. Let's take like a day to draw, and it looks like the best thing you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
I am also mindful, and again, this is the difference between me and Tom, but also it's also a difference between a relationship between a writer and an artist and some other writer and some other artist, where some people, like, that's all they want. Like very, very often an artist just wants absolute minimal description and wants them to go nuts.
Right.
I also want that, but I don't ever want the artist to feel like they did not get enough from me. I don't want them to I don't want to write, army of 10,000 soldiers charges over the hill and just and then leaves them to work their ass off for days and days. I want to actually visualize what it'll look like on the page, do a little sketching on my own just to see how it's going to look on the page, figure it out. Give them everything they can possibly use. Like when I'm talking to one artist, he will draw absolutely everything I put in that description, everything. He'll find a place for everything in there. the guy that like Javi, the guy who's drawing Batman and Robin now, he doesn't ask questions. He just like he takes out what he needs to. And if something is important, we'll discuss it. Like if he gives me the layout, like I'll give him a thing, and there's a lot of direction. But he knows to take out what he needs to, and he takes out kind of a lot of stuff sometimes. And then if there's ever a thing that is removed that is important, I'll let him know that. Be like, well, you did take out this guy, and we actually need to see his reaction here because he's about to do this other thing. Like if something's important, I'll just draw his attention to something else in the script that's about to happen, to make sure that stays on the rails. But yeah, it's all about your working relationship with each individual person, because everyone needs something different from you. It's also a matter of trust. I will tend to err on the side of trust, but also comics are also very time sensitive, and sometimes people cut corners just because they're crunched for time, and sometimes the book suffers because of that, and it's not necessarily their fault. They're just trying to get the book in on time. So, for example, if I have a moment in a book where I say, Leo points the gun down the stairs at Drew, and then the image that actually makes it onto the page, it should, like, the person is making a face that's just obviously inappropriate for the emotion of that scene, and the gun is at a weird angle because obviously that's what happened because of the photo reference that it was taken from, or something. Like there was some kind of a corner was cut. And it comes out looking stupid as a result. So the next time that, in the revision, or the next time I need something like that done, I'll be like, Leo holds his 1911 Colt in his right hand, points it down the stairs, looks him directly in the eye at an angle of 30 degrees. I'll give him a lot more, he's still wearing the fucking tie, Joel. Like I just make sure that everyone knows everything that they need to know to get it all right. And, so sometimes it's also a matter of trust, and to make sure that corners don't get cut because of time constraints in a way that screws the book.
Leo.
And all Alfred Hitchcock on the storyboarding.
Yeah, Leo, we had one chance to be in comics, man, and we blew it because you couldn't hold a fucking gun.
I'm sorry. I do have to say, I'm excited to see your work with Batman and Robin. Can't wait to show you. Who's you mentioned the artist name?
Javi.
I looked him up earlier. It looks like he's done a ton of Batman work before. Matter of fact, Brave and the Bold #6, which was I looked at it today for reference. His artwork is amazing.
It's so good. He's born to draw Batman. He did an issue of Detective for ROM.
Oh, nice.
He's so good, man. Like he's been, even aside from the issues of, he's also done a lot of Nightwing.
Yep.
I think he's done a little bit of Catwoman. He's just got he's got a style that just lends itself so well to Gotham stuff. Batman in particular, though. It's like this amazing cross between like top shelf superhero stuff that you expect to see with all the musculature and the crazy anatomy, but also like somewhere between that and like David Aja, who did Hawkeye, My Life as a Weapon, like where it's that really cool minimalistic kind of like realism. He completely like walks that tightrope between those two and just makes the coolest looking pages, man. God, and his layouts are so dope. He's one that I really try not to. I do give, again, I give him a lot of direction, but I make sure he understands. Please go nuts on these action sequences. There's an action sequence in my first issue. My first issue is issue 14. His shelves in October. I wanted, my tone of the book is so different from Josh's. I really wanted a new #1 because it feels like a new series. But there were some other #1s, like all the absolute all in shits happen right then. And they're trying not to confuse anybody. So it's still gonna be number 14. It'll be #1 in the trade when it comes out.
Right.
Okay.
It's so different from what they've been doing in that book up till now. Like the Josh had this really awesome relationship with Simone, the artist on that, where it's like really like slick and kinetic and kind of quippy and just, I don't know, I had a very clear kind of Josh Williamson kind of style that works great. Yeah. But my thing I'm doing with Javi is way different. And I'm going to have to assume that, there's a truck out there with my name on it. And it's coming, and I'm gonna have to assume this is my only Batman story. I don't want to waste it. So, so Batman and Robin. I'm assuming it's my only Batman book, and I have very specific needs in my Batman stories.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to be a detective noir story. I want to see Gotham rainy, foggy, gross and gritty. I want to see a detective story, like a real mystery to work out. I want to see a villain that's scary. I want to see a Batman that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
If you boil Batman down to his mission statement, is criminals are a cowardly, superstitious lot. And it's all about making himself scary, because it wasn't enough to be the guy in the balaclava and the jacket. He had to be scary to make it all come together.
Well,
so I'm giving you a scary Batman. He's tough as hell, but he's also scary. He's also the world's greatest detective. Well, selfishly, I also identify very, very much as a father right now. Mm-hmm. And my son grew up the biggest Batman fan in the world. Right now, he likes Spider-Man, but he still loves Batman and Superman too. Of course. But back in the day, he only had eyes for Batman. And to get to tell a Batman story where he's parenting his own son is just a dream come true. I got to do it on Superman, but Superman is like the ideal father. The father that kind of shows us the way. Batman is maybe not the opposite of that, but certainly not great.
Yeah.
He's kind of been he's been training soldiers, not raising sons.
Yeah. And it's funny, Philip, I can just kind of see your son looking at you like, Dad, you're writing Batman now. Don't mess this up. No, I don't want to deal with this. Like,
he trusts me.
Hey, look. He's like, don't fuck this up, Dad. And it's I won't go to your room, like,
we're going to crush it. He knows me. I mean, honestly, there are elements of his upbringing that are Batman-esque. we do jiu-jitsu and boxing drills every day. He does his language skills every day. He plays music every day. Not that that's a big priority for Damien, but he's got his list. He's got his list of chores, but his chores are mostly geared towards making him a badass person.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just need to say this. And I just need to say this because this just popped in my head. I was like, oh my God, if you have Damien in some sort of garage band, I'm done. I just need to say, I'm just imagining that. And I'm just like, dude, that would be the worst, greatest band ever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the cool thing is that Josh already established that Damien draws comics, which actually is really cool. There is a moment where we see him drawing comics in his room that is really fun. It's cool to see these little sides of Damien, like the way he loves animals and the way that he makes comics himself. We're used to seeing him as this little Al Ghul, but he's got really human sides to him that are really fun to bring out. But I also have to just think about what it would take. What does it take to be the way I used to think about what would Superman be like as a father? How would John take that as a son? All those elements. Now I have to think about what does the day-to-day life look like for somebody who has made himself an equal to gods. What does a living man have to do to make himself that exceptional? And it's important for me to show those little elements as well.
So if I can just kind of change the subject just briefly a little bit, I just want to also bring up that in your Hulk run, you have Hulk come across Ghost Rider, but the funny thing is that during that run, that was around the time that Benjamin Percy, who we also got to meet at Terrificon this year, was announcing a new Ghost Rider that was very different than what we saw before. And I remember reading this, and I remember kind of touching base with Carrie shortly after, and I was like, I guess spoilers, this is the new Ghost Rider. I mean, he's pretty freaking cool, it's definitely different than what we've seen before, this soldier kind of thing. And I was like, oh my God. But then it ended up not being as you know, Ben Percy's Ghost Rider was infusing the hood with Zathras. So yours was a completely different one, but it was still self-contained. But I was like, you know what? No disrespect to what Ben Percy and everybody's doing there. kind of want to see more of this like ghost soldier writer. Like this shit is fucking cool, man. And
It's pretty
him,
fun, man.
yeah. So like, so you kind of did your own Ghost Rider. So I mean, was that? I mean, no pun intended. Was that scary? Because I could only imagine you're adding to this, you know, hellish Marvel mythology that's been there for decades. Like, what was that like?
It's awesome, man. Like I kind of have this Nazi hang up. Like I don't like Nazis much at all. And I, not that anyone does or should, but
Right.
But yeah, I hate Nazis more than is healthy. And I really wanted to do I kind of wanted to do like a Marvels and Inglorious Bastards kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
And I've been like soft pitching this book for a while. So, but I also need like monsters in this Hulk book. The whole setup in issue 1 of Eldest and the Mother of Horrors and all that stuff.
Right.
It kind of makes Hulk into this lightning rod for monsters from all over the world.
Right.
And that kind of opened the door for this like Marvel team up kind of series, the way there was when I was a kid, where I had all these old second, third hand ripped up books with Spider-Man teaming up with whatever A, B, or C lister was around.
Right.
And through that series, I got to know a lot of the Marvel universe, like through the guys he was teaming up with, but also with people they were fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was awesome. And it was mostly like one shots or, 2 issues, like little 2-issue arcs, stuff like that. I did not have very many books that were consecutive. Like most of my comics were like one-off. Sometimes I'd have a couple in a row. And I was always really excited. Like, oh crap, I get to see what happens. It's awesome. And I kind of wanted to do Hulk that way. I wanted to give the reader just like constant jumping on points so that they can read just 1 issue or 2 issues and have the whole thing and love it. So that's kind of been the mission statement for this book. I've really wanted to give people just constant jumping on points. And so it's almost like a Monster of the Month kind of setup, but with this umbrella arc kind of leading you forward. Just give a little bit of character development or plot development in every arc. It's kind of slowly carrying the ball down the field. And I knew that I wanted to use, well, if you look at the very last, either the last or the second to last page, I think it's the last page of that first issue, you see some monsters kind of coming together. I can't remember who all, I think.
No.
I can't remember. Ghost Rider was definitely one of them. I want to say Man Thing was one of them.
Yes.
There might have been some Mole Men or something.
Moloids, yeah, there were.
Yeah, Moloids, sorry.
No, it's all good.
That David had just put in that annual. I had a story that I wanted to do with those guys. But then David's like, I got this awesome manual. You want to read it? I'm like, yeah, I do. And I was like, wow. He's using my little critters. But, anyway, so Ghost Rider was one I really wanted to do, but I wanted to make it a new one because in Jason Aaron's run, he established that there have been writers all throughout history and they're all different from different places. I don't know if he introduced that idea, but he definitely developed it in a cool way. And I just loved it. It's kind of been in my head since then. I could think about like, hey, what would Viking Ghost Rider look like? What would Ghost Rider from this era or this area look like? And like Steve McQueen, World War II, Great Escape Ghost Rider has kind of been on, the front of my mind ever since then. And yeah, I just wanted to show another rider out there, something that wouldn't even interfere with the main book. Something like another Ghost Rider that I wanted to show. And that also kind of grew out of this is kind of a downer, but after the Uvalde shooting in Texas, I wanted to show a rider that was attached to the Spirit of Vengeance like all the others, but instead of the Spirit of Vengeance being in himself, that it's actually in this kid. There he is. There's Leo. Actually, his name is Leo also. Oh, wow.
There you go.
The reason for that, like Crocodile Black was already underway, but there's this one particular kid whose dad I met, and the kid's name was Uzziah, who they always called Uzi. And I couldn't give the kid in the book his real name, but I found out that Uzi was a Leo, like his astrological sign was Leo, and he's very proud of it. So that's what I called him in the book. So instead of the Spirit of Vengeance being in the rider himself, the way it is Johnny Blaze, the Spirit of Vengeance is in this little boy. So Ghost Rider is his guardian angel, you know.
Cool.
So yeah, that's where that story came from.
I could only say I hope we're going to see more of him. Maybe. I mean, again, you know, Marvel is very good with. We have this here. Well, it's there. Someone could use it. We're not going to say if we will, but maybe. I'm just like,
stay tuned. I'm not done with that character at all. There's actually a lot of characters showing up in this book that I want to bring back later on in the series in a very deliberate way. I have a plan for all those guys that you've been seeing so far.
Nice.
But Ghost Rider 44. So Ghost Rider 44 is what we're calling this character. His human form was Sergeant Sal Romero, and we're going to see Sal again for sure. So if you guys can hang out just like a few more weeks, we'll have some really cool news.
Oh, you haven't been seeing. Carrie's been beaming the entire time you're talking because she's a huge Ghost Rider fan. So
cool.
He's just loving this.
Awesome.
Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider Volume 3 was the first comic I ever collected. So it's what really got me into Howard Mackey is what got me into comics, and then moved on from there into. It was just the right time to start picking up Sandman and stuff too. So it was like
awesome.
Yeah.
And
well, thanks for your
those
support.
of you,
I definitely love that book. So and that character. So you'll be seeing him again for sure.
Sweet.
For those of you reading the Hulk too, the Incredible Hulk, check out and pay attention to this. Hulk is brutal, and the transformations that you have had Sam doing, or no, not Sam. Who's doing your anyway? The transformations are just awful. The pain that Banner is put through every time for the Hulk to escape is just insane.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. That was important to me too. Whenever I see Banner's kind of swell up and turn green like a parade balloon, it just kind of feels like a missed opportunity, you know? Like I want to see how much this hurts. So yeah, we're showing, for those who've not read the book, it's rough. Like so have you guys heard about how Todd McFarlane kind of changed things when he started drawing Spider-Man, like with the webs?
Yeah.
So yeah, for those who don't know, who are watching, before Todd McFarlane, when people drew Spider-Man's webs coming out from his hands, it was just like a bunch of straight lines, and then they'd kind of color it gray.
Mm-hmm.
But then McFarlane started doing it, and he made them all like really gooey and going, and kind of like made the lines go all zippy in different directions, and drew all the texture. And it's like a ton of work. But man, it looked so much cooler. It was just this huge level up, and he just completely ruined the gig for everyone who came after him. So now everyone's got to do that, because it just to go back will be so disappointing, you know. I'm trying to ruin Hulk the same way here, like in various ways. The lettering, for one thing, like when the lettering first came back, and part of this is my fault too. And when I wrote Hulk's dialogue, it was just Hulk, you know, stupid hole or whatever. He would just say something. I just wrote the words. So then when the comic came back lettered, his dialogue balloons looked like everyone else. And I kind of hear stuff when I read it, and he just kind of sounded like an Endgame where Hulk is talking with Mark Ruffalo's voice is like normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how it read to me. I'm like, Hulk doesn't sound like he should. Like Hulk, we're trying to establish Hulk as the legit monster of the movie. You know, like not just a monster, but like this he's like an act of nature. He's this natural disaster that walks around. He needs to have the same gravitas as like a god, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I kind of worked with Corey, the letterer, on how to get that across. And there was this really cool image in the first issue where Hulk is almost completely transformed, and he's saying something like "Banner's mine." And Corey sent me that page with like 20 different balloons around his head, and each one looked a little different. It said "Banner's mine," and every one of them, but they all looked a little different. And we got to kind of, you know, focus in on which one was going to be the one. So now whenever Hulk appears in a book, he uses that same lettering. And I want it to always be that way. The way Thor's dialogue is always kind of that old-timey kind of script.
Right.
I want Hulk's dialogue to always be like black with green lettering, with that thick green outline, kind of jagged and everything. And his transformations need to always be the most horrific things ever, like the most that the artist can do. There's one. And I described all that, and I actually read that out loud to somebody, like what it read like in the script, and that one's real descriptive. I had some real distinct wants for that scene. I imagined I mentioned like Hulk's teeth coming into his mouth and pushing out his other teeth.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the script, I think I described his other teeth like exploding out of his mouth as Hulk's teeth come in. There's stuff where there's another transformation in another issue where the idea is that when Banner becomes Hulk, he grows bigger from the inside out. So his insides like explode out his outsides.
Mm-hmm.
And when he transforms the other way, he gets smaller from the outside in, which is possibly even worse.
Right.
So there's these moments where like he's Banner and he just kind of peels his scalp apart and like this larger head comes out of it, and it's just rough. But I don't know, that's like some of the fans have told me that's some of their favorite pages from the book is like seeing the body horror elements and just kind of embracing how crazy these transformations are. So that's become like a focal point of every issue is the transformation. And if for whatever reason it's an issue in which Hulk doesn't transform, then there has to be something else of some kind of equivalence in that issue.
Right.
Yeah. When I was reading this and I got to this page, I'm like, wait a second, this looks familiar. And I remembered it was trending on Reddit, just this one page. And it was.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
So that's nice to hear. Yeah, that's the Banner's Mind images, right?
Yep.
Man, that looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nick is doing the best work of his career on this book, man.
I love this. I wasn't sure initially. I was like, he is really fucking huge. And then it's like, oh, yes, he is. And it makes it so much better. Because you see so many different Hulks throughout time, you
do.
And I really like how monstrous he is. I like the hair and everything that's all greasy. And he's just like, rrr.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this book, man. It's a lot of fun. Issue number 19 is it's the Legacy issue 800. This Incredible Hulk number 800.
Yeah.
So we're making a big thing of it. That issue changes the status quo a lot between Hulk, Charlie, and Eldest. Like everything changes big time in that issue. So I'm very excited for fans.
And we're very excited to read it. I can speak for me and Carrie in saying that. Maybe Leo. Okay. I'm just making sure. Well, I don't know.
I read the first trade and I'm loving it. So I'm going to be reading more. And matter of fact, I think you're up to what, issue 15, 14?
I think 15 are on shelves. I just turned in issue 20.
Nice.
Yeah. So for people that want to get caught up, if your LCS doesn't have the issues, trades 1 and 2, I think, are out right now. Or is there a third? I think it's just the 2 trades right now.
Excuse me. Yeah, the first 2 trades are on shelves right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have them autographed.
Yes, she does. I've seen them. And if you want additional context for what Phillip is doing, definitely Al Ewing's Immortal Hulk. It may seem like a lot, 50 issues, but I swear they're like Pringles, man. Once you pop, the horror don't stop.
Yeah, it's a great series. And actually, there's an issue at the very end that Alex Pocknadel primarily wrote with Al, with Juan Ferreira on art. It's called Time of Monsters. My whole arc right now is called Age of Monsters. There's a single issue called Time of Monsters that shows an ancient Hulk that was around like 4,000 years ago.
Yes.
And it suggests, and we kind of confirm in issue 15 that is actually Enkidu from the Epic of Gilgamesh. Like if you read the actual Gilgamesh, there's a character in there named Enkidu who is he's like this bull man. He's like this really huge barbaric dude who has like horns and stuff. And he is an ally of Gilgamesh that has his own story. And they introduce a Hulk that is actually him and explain how he became what he is, and ties right into all the horror and stuff. And you see, like when you see the flashback to the leader back like 100 years ago or whatever it was, that one flashback issue where you see Banner's ancestor and everything, you see that dude's skull. You see Enkidu's skull in in a case. So when you see that gigantic Hulk corpse in issue 1, that's Enkidu's corpse, and then in 15 you see how he got to be there and how he knew Eldest and the whole origin.
Crazy. Nice continuity. Gotta love it.
That's right. Shared universe. You got to share the toys in the sandbox.
Yeah.
And
go Carrie.
one thing with I want to jump back over real quick because this is something else that I'm loving about what you've mentioned so far about Batman and Robin. Your new villain that you have created entirely for Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
Sure.
Or-
Well, I'm gonna. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I made up a character named Memento, and Memento is kind of an Aleister Crowley / Jack the Ripper kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
That
nice.
Man, I'm excited for everyone to see. He's just what Gotham needs, in my opinion. You know, like I do really love the colorful rogues gallery that Batman has. But I also have always been kind of fascinated with Batman's walkabout that he took when he was basically Damian's age. So, and this is a father-son story, and it's important to me to really embrace that part of it too. I don't want to just make a Batman story. I have had this Batman story in my mind for a long time, but Damian was always an important part of it. I didn't want to just, do a Batman story and kind of staple Damian onto the side and act like it's a Robin thing. He's an inherent part of it. So it's kind of a true detective kind of setup where you see this flash forward, flash back thing where there's kind of two arcs happening at the same time to kind of tie together. So we see Batman years earlier in London, and it ties into the events happening modern day in Gotham. So we get to kind of see Damian and Bruce at similar ages. Memento plays a very important part in all of that. So we get to see part of how Batman became what he is, and then also what Damian could be. And Damian's kind of questioning his role in this whole family legacy. Like, is something happens that kind of sets Damian on his own kind of self-discovery. Like, is this even what I want to do? Because Batman has always had purpose. Like he set out with his purpose across the world to collect the tools he needed to become what he became. But Damian has only ever had the tools. He's had nothing but tools since he was raised to be an assassin by his, crazy family and their League of Assassins and all that. And now he's under Batman's wing. He's got nothing but tools, but he doesn't really have purpose. He began with his mother's purpose that was kind of forced upon him, or his grandfather's purpose. Now he's got Batman's purpose. But something happens in the first couple of issues that makes him question what his purpose really is, like what he wants. Does he give a shit about the Al Ghuls? Does he give a shit about Gotham? So he kind of sets out on his own journey of self-discovery. We kind of see that superimposed against his dad's at a similar age, and how Memento ties into all of that. So I'm pretty excited. I can't wait for you to see, especially with Javi doing the art. He's crushing it.
Wait.
Awesome. Can't wait. And the way you describe it, it's something definitely we've been missing from Batman for a while is, bringing him back to his detective roots. We just need a regular Batman story. It's been too convoluted for way too long.
Yeah. There was this issue that I had. I need to go through my old stuff and find it. There was an issue that happened after the death of Jason Todd back in the day, in which Batman. See, Alfred. I'm pretty sure it was drawn by Jim Aparo. I see Jim Aparo's art in my mind. Alfred was kind of dressing him down, saying, like, you're getting beat up a lot these days. Like, I'm patching you up a lot these days. Like, you come home stabbed, your knuckles all busted. You're solving all your problems with your fists now. Like back in the day, you were using your mind. And he told him, use your mind, not your fists. And throughout that issue, he was out doing the Batman thing. He was kind of repeating that over and over in his own mind, like, use your mind, not your fist. Use your mind, not your fist. And at the end of the adventure in that issue, he's like, "What did you use?" And he kind of holds up his fist, and he knows that he was still kind of brutalizing his way through it. He was just, because he had all that anger for what had happened, and he was still trying to sort it all out.
Right.
He'd lost the detective side of himself. And not throwing any shade in any books anyone else has done, but that's kind of where I feel like we're at too. Like, I want to see more detective stuff. If it's just a book about a big tough dude beating up other tough dudes, that's every book on the shelf.
Right.
And when I was writing Superman, it was all about how do we make this one different? With Superman, when he's doing that stuff, the only reason his powers should be there is to illustrate how incorruptible he is.
Right.
How good and true he is. Like he's after he puts down Metallo, he hands him his arm back and he dusts him off and raises him up. It's like, okay, now we're gonna go save your sister together. Now that you can't kill my children, now I'm gonna help you.
Right.
That's why. That's why his powers are there. With the Hulk, he just wants to be left alone. He's actually the one that he's haunting, the one that he's after really is Banner, not the monster that he's actually fighting.
Right. Because he's got a score to settle,
Yeah. Charlie, the reason that Charlie is there is so that we can see the relationship between Hulk and Banner more starkly. There's like a third person that they can interact with at the same time. Somebody who has a different relationship with Banner than she does with Hulk.
Yeah.
With Batman, it needs to be a detective story. I want to see Batman. Yes, he's gonna be physically awesome. We're gonna see why he is just as awesome as Superman, even though he's just a guy.
Right.
We're gonna see those, all that stuff come into play visually for sure, because it's still a comic book, and we're gonna see what kind of father he is, all warts and all. But it's also gonna be a mystery that ideally he can solve that the reader can't, and they will see and believe that he is the world's greatest detective.
Nice.
Well, that sounds great. But Philip, we're kind of coming up on that hour. So really, we appreciate you stopping by again. Thank you so much. And before you go, if you want to maybe bring up any other projects you're working on that you can talk about, no, we're not trying to get into trouble with the big two. So, and then what's the best way for people to interact with you on social media and things? So.
Yeah, thanks. The books that are coming out monthly right now, Green Lantern War Journal just finished up with issue 12. And there is a short story that'll be on the end of one of the Green Lantern issues, and then there's this crossover issue I did with Jeremy Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's all wrapped up. Incredible Hulk comes out monthly. Crocodile Black comes out one more issue, number 5 coming out soon, and that's the whole miniseries, which I'm super excited for. Let's see, Batman and Robin number 14, my first issue comes out in October, and there's a couple other series I can't talk about yet. So I guess we should leave it there. But if you want to find me, I'm on social media under either my full name or at Phillip K. Johnson. I'm at Phillip K. Johnson at Instagram and all the Twitter descendants.
Oh, boy.
And I have a website, phillipkennedyjohnson.com. So yeah, look me up.
Okay,
awesome.
totally.
For anybody having any issues, check the show notes up above or down below. I have all those links there, so you can just go through and click them out. And Philip, I'm a fan now, so I absolutely love your work. So I'm definitely going to be checking out your Superman run after I'm done with Incredible Hulk. And whenever you got anything else to talk about, we'd love to have you back. But we totally appreciate your time this evening.
Thanks so much. It's great to hang out with you.
One of us. I mean, sorry. Yes, it was great having you back. Thank you so much, sir.
And we would also like to thank you very much for your service. And
yeah, that's an honor. Thank you. I appreciate you saying that. But it's
absolutely
nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's great to see you all. Thanks for everyone for watching too.
Well, thank you. And we'll tag you when we, like I mentioned, we're gonna re-edit this and put out a bunch of different segments. So we'll make sure we tag you. Actually, let me hit this button here. So yeah, when you're ready, just hit the leave studio button on the bottom. And then if you want to just go to the uploads page, and yeah, we greatly appreciate that.
All right.
Awesome.
Good to see you all again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Until next time, sir. Thank you.
All right.
Go back.
That was awesome.
Oh my gosh. His family was so sweet when we were there. Like, you'll have to check the one of the panels that I did that he was on, the one specifically for him. They were sitting in the audience, and his little boy was like, they were doing the audience questions, and he asked a question. He was like, who would you like to write as a superhero the most and stuff? And it was just adorable.
Yeah, it's always nice when they have their families there. you know, or when their handlers are just super cool and stuff. So yeah, and yeah, Leo, you gotta read more freaking comics, man. Me and Carrie know what we're talking about, but I don't have time to watch, but let me watch every television show that comes out in the last 10 years.
Hey,
Turn-
yeah, fine.
Yeah. So you know what, Leo? Let's because again, we're down a jar. So why don't we get to the news?
Take so